What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gym Lords Podcast. Welcome back. My name is Kale Owen, one of the many hosts here at the Gym Lords Podcast. I am here with Dave Dunham, the 17th, and Edward Turney, the 37th, and we are extremely excited to be here with everyone today. Today's podcast title is Murder Your Squirrel. Murder Your Squirrel.
That makes me super excited to talk about this, right? Because like when I'm going, so the Rambo knife is always the best part, right? So PETA, if you're listening, no squirrels were harmed as we're going through this today, right? The squirrel is like this proverbial squirrel that is there for us that we're talking about because gym owners, they get highly distracted in situations, right? Instead of really focusing in regards to like, hey, like I'm doing these things and it's making me a ton of cash and it's getting me close to where I need to be and I'm pulling profit. I'm doing all the pieces that I really need to do. Why don't I add a kitchen to the back? Or why don't I do something else because that looks attractive in the moment? And so like, as I'm going through the process, like, you know, we always joke about it, but like it's a squirrel moment. So if you ever seen it before, it's like something pops up and it's quick and it catches your eye. So you pay attention to it really quickly instead of being focused on the task at hand. And so that's kind of where we came up with this from, is because we want to stop you from having squirrel moments. We're going to murder those squirrels today.
Let's talk about like, because I think this is fairly typical among most entrepreneurs, is shiny object syndrome, squirrels, like, hey, squirrel, I want to go after that, all that stuff. Why do you think this happens? Why do you think entrepreneurs are, and I think most people they like new things and they like to do stuff, new, exciting things. Why do you think entrepreneurs do this? Because it's essentially, let's call it what it is. It's self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. So it's self-sabotage. So why?
I like to call it strategical boredom. And what I mean by that is that typically speaking, as an entrepreneur, you get to a place in your business as to where your business is really flowing, right? And then everything is going in the right direction. And so you are bored. And then because you're bored, you start to pay attention and other things look more appealing, right? And so like the reason why I say that it's strategical is because like all the strategy has happened on the one side. So like it's almost like, you know, we talk about like being in flow. So your business is in flow. And now you're like, okay, well, now that all these things are working for me in the right direction, now what do I do? So it only makes sense that I should open up another business or that I should entertain another idea instead of continuing to do the thing that keeps me in steady state.
You're making the assumption that they're successful though already.
Yeah, I was gonna not even.
I'm taking the high road.
I love it. So let's provide some context. Dave Dunham coaches our top clients and some clients that, if we were going to go through the stats, the bottom 20% of our gym lords, like he coaches, he is our coach when it comes to building gyms, creating $1 million gyms, all that stuff. So Dave, you also talk to the top gym owners and you're seeing that now. You're seeing gym owners that are taking home. Literally, the stats just came out. Our average in the top 20% of our gyms, the average take home is just shy of $250,000 a year. So they're taking home almost $250,000 a year in pure profit in their business. So that's the top, but I see it more on the people that are literally, they're making $5,000 a month and they're like, cool, I've got that down now. That's not making enough money. So I'm going to add in this service, or I'm going to add in this service, or I'm going to go try this. And I'm going to go do online plus meal prep plus a photography company. I don't know what they're doing. Right. So why do you guys think that is? For the ones that are struggling, I can see it, the boredom at the top. I can totally see that. We can address that in just a second. But I think for most people, like me, perfect example, right? When I had my gym struggling, I think we had 50 or 60 clients at the time that I did it. We ultimately got to like maybe 75 clients during this process. But then I started being caught by the squirrel, the shiny object of going online. So I started working on an online thing. Like essentially I was doing hybrid at the time. So I was meeting with guys once a week in my gym and then giving them online programming. So they would come in and we would do a workout or meet up and talk about the next week's. I'm still holding this knife. I should probably drop it. And we would do that. And so I started building out this process and we made decent money. But here's what's really fascinating is at the end of the month, what happened was I made the same amount of money because my gym, I took my attention off my gym. So I made less and I wasn't making a lot of money anyways. And I brought my other gym up and or my online side up. And ultimately we were making the same amount of money, but now I've got a lease, I've got all this other stuff for 3 or 4, 5 years. And it's like, I was taking my focus off it and ultimately just doing more work for the same amount of money. And I see that a lot with gym owners that are making less than $20,000 a month, $15,000 a month. They're like, cool, if I just add this, it'll add another $10,000 a month. Now I'll be at $25,000 a month, right? Or I'll add this and I'll get an extra 5. Now I'm at $30,000 a month. If I just do this, it'll be super simple. Next thing you know, it'll be super easy. When in fact, all they're doing is just having another kid in their business, which takes the same amount of work, same amount of effort, same amount of attention. So the question is like, why do they do that?
Well, I think that entrepreneurs like new, and they like I like new. I like the process. I'm a big clean slate guy. I like when it's brand new and it's like an empty whiteboard and like ideas and build the thing in my head, right? That's the dopamine hit that I get. And so most of us are like that. So I made a similar mistake when my gym was doing $40,000 a month. This is before gym lunch. And I was like, I'm the man. I bought another one. I took over another one. And then all of my attention was on the new one because it was a failing gym and I had to fix it and try to fire people, hire people, retrain them, new systems, new everything, right? Guess what happened to the gym that was doing 40 grand and netting me, 7 or 8K, right? And then so because all my attention was over here. I think that we are fundamentally optimistic in nature. So we're like, cool, this is good. This is fine. Nothing bad will happen because I'm the best. And then you go start the new thing. I think honestly, we just don't like to look in the mirror and identify our deficiencies, identify our problems, and work on those because it feels better emotionally and all the chemicals in our brain. We just start something new. So like we're just constantly running for this like new dopamine hit as opposed to just looking in the mirror and be like, what can I do better? And just continue to do the boring work. Because the goal of a business is to serve clients and make profits. Yep. That's it. Serve clients better, make more profits.
What's funny is so number one, what's funny is that like I am the apparently the sunshine and rainbows guy today. I've taken over Ed's role of being the sunshine and rainbows guy for the day. So it's fine. So it's fine. That's fine. So number two, what I think is funny is like I did the same thing, right? And so I said like I thought like I had this weird egotistical ideas like, hey, like I'm crushing in this one in our first gym. Like we were crushing in the first gym, right? So then it's like, no, we're going to solve a problem. We're going to put a commercial kitchen in, right?
Real quick, just for context. When you say crushing, what's crushing? Because this helps people. Because I think numbers will help people put it in perspective.
Oh, we had so for a sustainable amount of time, like I think it was because we didn't map it out until it was at 6 months. So we were 6 months out at a little over $90,000 a month. And so like,
you're $1 million a month. You're $1 million gym.
Yeah, like so we didn't count the first 30 days and like we had this whole system. But anyway, so we were crushing. So the natural idea that we had was like, dope. So we're just going to add a commercial kitchen because that solves a problem. All right. So the kitchen ended up working well. But then what happens with the kitchen is that like, then that process starts to slide because there's so many people that are ordering. And so we're like, oh goodness, we can't keep up with all the orders, right? All right. So then in the mix of all this, I'm like, sweet, let's just open up another gym. Let's have another kid, right? let's have another kid, right? Which means now I got more overhead, I've got more employees, I've got more of everything instead of fixing the initial problem that I had of being able to not address the issue like, hey, like we should probably not really focus on this food thing and really just focus on the fitness side that we had just got to that $1 million run rate over the course of that 6 months and just focused on blowing the doors off of that gym. And I'll never forget my first conversation with Alex, and we were going through the process and I was telling him all the things that had happened. And he's like, how many kids do you have? And I was like, well, I have 4. And he's like, well, cool. He's like, but then you have this other business plus you have another gym. So it really gives you 2 more kids in the situation. And he was like, as much as you like to be like, I love them all equally, you can't. And because you can't love them all equally, that means that like something's going to suffer. And he's like, so would you rather your number one, like your big gym, the one that's doing everything, would you rather that to suffer? Or would you rather look at the situation as to why like these other ones aren't doing so hot? Because the other gym, we couldn't get it over $30,000.
Yep. So again, that was sunshine and rainbows because you were doing 90K at that point. So let's just throw that out again. Dave, gosh,
I got to be consistent.
I love it. You had a story behind it. You have your own personal experience. I love it. We're adding to it. Ed, I got to throw yours out in the bathwater as well, bro, because like yours was 40K. We got a lot of gym owners that are listening to this and they're struggling at 10K trying to go do meal prep as well. Right. But I think, Ed, you hit this on the head earlier, and that was they're not willing to face the facts that their current systems are broken. And so rather than fixing the broken systems or the model itself is broken, instead of fixing that, they're like, cool, I'll just let this maintain the way it is. And either they don't know how to fix it, number one, or they just don't want to. And so I'll turn my attention to doing something that I love, which is build things. which I think most entrepreneurs like to build things. We like to create things. That's why I think God put us all on earth in regards to entrepreneurs. We just like to create things and build things, and it's really cool. And then once they're built, it's like, great, I built it. And then it's like, I'm gonna turn my back and start something else, right? Instead of following through on it.
And so if you have that personality type, which we all do, like take your business and be like, how do I make it better? Not different, right? Like if you have an onboarding process that's doing really well, revamp the deck and make it a little bit better. If you have a meal plan that's really great, just look at it and be like, can I make it 5% better? You can make new things, right? I used to make new things all the time, right? We make new things all the time, but we don't change the focus, right? It's like serve the clients better, make more profits. And also, if you really believe you are crushing it, which me and Dave both believe we were at different stages in the game, right? But we could have crushed it more. When you're doing 40K a month, it's easy to get to 60. If you're doing 90 and you just tweak something, you're a 120. Like you can just look at things and be like, how do I improve upon the thing that's already working? If you could just shift your like entrepreneurial creative juices as to something from something different to how do I make this thing better? Make it better and better, better every single day. Like you can put the same amount of effort and work and energy into just better, not new, because better is what you need.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I get when I get to talk to my guys now that we talk about is just like being able to enhance experience, right? Because even with my guys that are hitting 7 figures, is like instead of being able to open up something new, I'm like, dope, what's your attrition rate? Right?
Ooh,
or
yeah.
Right? And they're like, oh crap! Like I have a guy in Canada who is at 100 and I think he's at 117 or 118,000 dollars a month right now. And his attrition rate when we first met, because he wanted to open up and he wanted to do this online platform, but in the same token though, his attrition rate was at 17% in-house. And I'm like, bro, like what if we didn't do this? And what if we just focused on this, right? Within the first 90 days takes his attrition down to like 8.5%. Awesome. So then now let's rinse and repeat, right? So like being able to focus more so in regards to like what that experience looks like for the individual, to copy what Ed said, but just continuous to look at that. Like I think it does do that. And I think when typically speaking, like when we're looking for something, it's because like we're running from something else, right? So it's like you're looking for the solution, but really you're running from fixing the hard stuff with the initial problem.
Real quick, just on attrition, because it's so important. Just not everybody knows this. So he was at 16%. He went to 8. That's what you said.
8.5.
Okay, so what's his monthly price? What does he charge?
He's at 207 right now a month.
Okay, just for context. So his lifetime value was $1,300 before, and now it's $2,587. That's insane.
Hey, double.
Like
you double your LTV by dropping. Like it's yeah. And just a heads up, that's also, I'm glad you said that. That's literally the exact average of our gym lords. They decrease their attrition by 50% and double their LTV. The average gym lord decreases their attrition from 16% to 8% using our program. And they raise their prices on average $104 a month per client. So not only do they raise prices, but they also cut attrition in half, which blows any belief about pricing and attrition out of the water, right? But I want to hit on something too, and this is beliefs. I wonder if it's sometimes more of the belief that they don't believe that they can get to a certain point, that they've maxed out their gym and they don't know what's actually truly possible within a facility. I mean, we have one gym owner, right, in New York that's just shy of $200,000 a month. And it's out of a facility that is what, 2,000 square feet?
1,700.
1,700 square feet in New York City, right? So he's got the most rent. He does semi-private, but like he's still making almost $200,000 a month. And their profit margins are roughly what, 40 to 50%? 50, right? And he's got 3 partners or 2 partners, right? So there's 3 of them, I think, in the business, and they're splitting 100K a month in pure profit. And it's like out of 1,700 square feet. And so for those of you that are gym owners that are like, I've got 5,000 square feet and I'm doing 20K a month, I'm stoked. Let me go start a meal prep company. Like, dude, you haven't even scratched the surface.
Yeah.
This guy's doing 10 times what you're doing out of 1,700 square feet. And I think that's the piece, is just breaking beliefs about what's actually possible, because this is where that cake model kind of comes into play, right? The cake model, I remember seeing the cake model for the very first time and just being like, that is how you do it. Like, it was just, that is the yellow brick road. I just need to follow the yellow brick road. I need to stack the layers within my business. And all of a sudden, here we go. Right. And that was kind of the belief breaker for me, and being like, okay, this is truly possible in a gym. Because before I was like, cool, I really just want to get to $40,000 a month. Like, that's it. Like, I had this number in my head arbitrarily, just like, I just want $50,000 or $40,000. But like, there's no context to that. And I thought that was essentially the peak. I thought that's pretty much about what I would probably max out at. And it's like, no, if you put in the right pieces and everything else, you can blow the doors off any facility and legit triple, quadruple, 10x your revenue just by following a simple system and having the right model in place. So that belief is probably a lot of that.
I'm a firm believer in the fact too, like when you set like arbitrary numbers like that, like they're never satisfying. So setting a $40,000 goal, or what happens once you get to $40,000, like your life isn't over, people are still coming in. So like, you're like, oh great, I'm at 40 grand. It's kind of like, I'm sure like you were, right? It's like, you're like, oh great, I'm at 40 grand. So now what? Right?
That's where the boredom sets in too. If you do hit it, you're like, cool, you put a cap on yourself. So then it's like, cool, now I'm going to go find something else. I hit my goal. And either instead of pushing forward and figuring out what's possible, it's like, cool, now I'll start a meal prep company, or I'll start doing this.
And I think that kind of rolls into it too. Is like when we set arbitrary goals for ourselves, right? And so I know this kind of back into the belief thing too, but like when we set those arbitrary goals for ourselves, is that I think it allows for these other things to happen, is because you get to the goal and then you're not satisfied, right? So I hit my $40,000, but like now I'm not satisfied. So then now I try to find something else that I think is going to be that missing link of satisfaction to satisfy me in the situation that's going to help me push forward. And it never does, right? Because it's kind of like that empty hole that you keep going in, but it pushes you into the sunken place in the situation. And so I'm a strong believer in the fact that like, instead of setting like those arbitrary goals, it's like looking at your business as a whole and then figuring out ways that like you can just service your individuals better, and then be able to focus on the core functions of business at all times, right? So not so much in regards to the one, because that's how to blow it up, is that how great are you at 5 core functions, and then you work directly from there.
And it's really just about attention, right? Like all these things come back down to attention. So I had 2 moments in my career where I said the same thing to myself, and magically it worked both times. The first time was early on. I had like a fitness kickboxing thing. I had a martial arts school. I worked in a personal training gym, all this stuff. And I said to myself, for 1 year, it was like May something. I remember it was like in the office, I was like, all right, from this day in May to next May, the only thing I'm going to do is focus on growing this fitness kickboxing program. It's the only thing I'm going to do. And I just went tunnel vision. And we were doing like $8,000 a month. And by the end of the year, we're doing like 40. I was like, wow, like just by cutting everything else out and focusing. Then that was like early career. And then in my gym launch client career, I was kind of doing gym launch stuff, but kind of not. I was like kind of running the 6-week thing, kind of not listening, and like it was all working a little bit. And I remember at the start of 2019, I was like, okay, all I'm going to do is execute every single part of this program, and I'm not going to be distracted with anything else. And it went from 400 grand a year to 1.2. So twice in my career, over this like 10-year career, I decided to be hyper-focused and not my normal self, because Alex always says like, what got you from 0 to 1 is not going to get you from 1 to 2. You have to be a different person. You have to improve. You have to develop new character traits, new skill sets. Like you can't just keep doing the same thing. You have to evolve as a person if you want your business to evolve. And if you've been at the same income level for 10 years and you're frustrated, it's because you're not evolving and you're not taking on the right character traits. So you don't need anything super fancy. You need a new character trait, and it's singular focus.
That's it. I don't think I've ever seen, so I say that with a grain of salt. There's an exception to every rule, right? There's always going to be an entrepreneur in the top 0.00001% of entrepreneurs that has the insane ability to be able to grow multiple companies at the same time from scratch. Very few. I mean, we're talking, there may be 1 or 2 of them in the entire world. Because if you think about the best people in the entire world, what did they do? They went all in on their business. Elon Musk, he didn't have multiple businesses, right? He focused on the one, then he would sell it. Then he'd focus on the next one, then he'd sell it. And then now he's building it, right? And then they get to a point where they can then have the ability and the team underneath them to then go try new things. Jeff Bezos, all of these people. And like, if you read a great book, it's Ready, Fire, Aim. And it is a MBA in business. Like if you don't need to go to school to learn anything about business, just read that book. It's all in there. Essentially from $0 to $1 million a year, you should only focus on one product and focus on sales. That's all you should be focusing on, is just that. From 1 to 10, you're focusing on your product. You're focused on making your product better. That's $1 million to $10 million a year. Most gym owners will never get there, right? Most gym owners will be below $1 million. So your only focus should essentially be focusing on one thing in your business, aka building your business. Don't go do other stuff. Focus on your business alone and focus on bringing new people in. That's it. You're just making your own systems better. Once you get to $1 million, then it's like, great, how can I improve my product? How can I make it better? Rather than going out and starting another gym, how can I make my product better? How can I make sure that I increase the LTV of my clients? How can I charge more? How can I find new ways to bring value to my clients? And then if for some crazy reason you get to $10 million or more, then it's about people. Again, we're not talking about going out and starting a new thing. It's literally just changes from there to people, right? And so a lot of times it's just, there's plenty of things in business, in your own business right now, that most gym owners or business owners are just simply ignoring, that they should be fixing. And they're just ignoring it for the fact of chasing that new shiny object that gets their rocks off because they like to do it. And it's like, hey,
this might help some people. So no one's more Gary V'd out than me. Love the guy. However, if you were like Gary V, you'd be Gary V. So like, you're not, right? A lot of us, we look at entrepreneurs and we follow entrepreneurs that are so far ahead of us that the actions that they take and the things they do not apply to us. So I learned this growing up in martial arts, right? A lot of times the martial arts teacher has been doing it for 30 years. The stuff they want to talk about and teach about is so beyond what you can handle, right? Like you don't have any foundational stuff. So in martial arts, a lot of times like the orange belt or the yellow belt that's been there for a year and it's like really solid is actually a better teacher for you when you're brand new. Does that make sense? So like we're trying to be like, I gotta be Grant Cardone or Gary Vee or Elon Musk. No, you don't, right? Like you need to develop the basics and the foundations and maybe you get there one day. And Gary Vee sold wine for literally a decade and did nothing else and then did all the other stuff, right? So like he built his fortune, same thing like Elon Musk. So like just be careful who you're following and listening to and stuff like that.
But setting unrealistic expectations of yourself allows you to be able to like to say it's okay that I didn't do something. Yeah. Right. So like that, I mean, that's kind of like the grass behind it is it's like, well, shit, well, I'm not X, Y, and Z. So like I didn't get it done. And so at the end of the day, like setting that unreal expectations allows them to like to bleed that way, which is 100% as to why we always just talk like foundational things. And so like being able to continuously focus on, like I always tell people, like you never build a house from the second story, right? House always starts on the bottom floor. And so we're on the foundation. And so like, that's how we build. And if you focus on being really, really good at the foundational things, like throughout the course of this process, then everything else will stack along top of that.
Let's wrap it up with one thing. I want to hit that real quick. Talking about foundations, right? And Dave and Ed, both of you have had a massive impact on these average numbers that we got. And the reason why I'm speaking on these numbers is we did a survey back in July of our gym lords, right? And of the ones that filled it out, we saw that the average number increased. The average gym with us increased almost their revenue. This is new revenue in addition to what they were making using our program of roughly $205,000 a year. So they added over $200,000 a year in new revenue. But here's the most fascinating aspect of this. And this is what we focus on. This is what we preach is what are you actually taking home? Because revenue really doesn't mean anything if you're not profitable. And here's the most fascinating thing. Our average gym increased their revenue by $205,000 and they increased their profit $104,000, which means that over 50% of that new revenue is pure profit. But that doesn't come from bringing in a whole bunch of clients. I'm going to say a damaging admission right here. The average gym lord only added 12 clients, 12 new clients. Think about that for a second. They only added on average 12 new clients, right? We had some that absolutely scaled from 0 to X. We had some that stayed the same with COVID and everything else. But you got to remember, they only added on average 12 new clients, but their profit went up $104,000 on average. That's insane. But that comes from just doing the basics within their business and just making it simply better, right? Getting their pricing right, making sure that their product is on point, making sure that they're actually doing reach outs to their clients, making sure that they're actually following a process when it comes to sales. It's just the simple stuff, making sure they're billing on the right times. They're not doing monthly billing, right? All of those simple things stack up to where it increases that take home, which is phenomenal. And right now, on average, our gym lords are taking home 6 times more than the average gym. 6 times more. Are they better than you if you're listening to this? Are they better gym owners? No. They don't have any more other different skills than you. They're not an exception to the rule. They literally started just like you. The average gym lord, when they came into the program, was taking home $17,000 a year. And now on average, they're taking home over 100, right? So I think it's really interesting. It's focus on your business, stay centered, don't get distracted, keep doing the boring work every single day. You guys have anything else to add to that?
That's perfect for me.
Mike is dropped.
Mic drop. All right.
Mike is dropped.
Appreciate you guys. To everyone that's listening, do us a favor. If you like this stuff, leave us a review. We always enjoy the feedback. Let us know if you'd like to hear something different. If you're watching this in the high ticket group, drop a comment below. And we will see you guys on the other side. Peace.